There's something you've been doing throughout your life that has been shaping your world without you even realizing it. It's not your behavior, your mindset, or even your core beliefs. It's how you observe. The truth is, many people stay trapped in cycles, not because life is inherently difficult, but because they have been viewing it through the same lens for too long. What many fail to understand is this shift. When you change your perspective, everything around you shifts as well. Imagine this. Two individuals enter the same space, same lighting, same temperature, same people, same surroundings. Yet one perceives potential while the other sees a threat. One feels uplifted, the other diminished. One experiences growth, the other restriction. Same environment, but completely different realities. Not because of what exists there, but because of how it is perceived. This is where the profound truth lies. What modern science, particularly quantum physics, reveals is not merely a metaphor, it's literal. Your perception, your focused awareness, is not passive. It is generative. It shapes and influences reality. The more consistently you look through a specific lens, the more the universe aligns itself to match that frequency. This is why your life can feel like a recurring loop, a pattern you can't quite name but deeply recognize, because you're engaging with life from the same energetic state, and the external world echoes that back to you. But here's the good news, that cycle is not fixed. And today you will begin to see how to shift it, not by struggle, but by changing how you observe everything. We have been conditioned to believe that reality is static, that what we see is what exists, that matter is fundamental, and that awareness is simply a byproduct. But the teachings of the divine, particularly through his signs in nature and the Quran, reveal a deeper truth. The world around us is not fixed or predetermined. It is fluid, filled with potential. The particles forming your world exist in a state of possibility. They only take shape when they are observed. This is not science fiction. It's a scientific reality that mirrors the teachings of God, that He is the ultimate observer, and everything in creation responds to His will. This is known as the observer effect. It means that the world does not exist apart from you. It becomes real through you. And here's the hidden truth. You are always observing, even when it is unconscious. Every automatic reaction, every expectation, every emotional pattern from your past, these are all forms of observation. These habitual subconscious observations collapse reality into the timeline you keep repeating. You may believe you are simply watching reality unfold. But what if it's reality that is responding to you? Not in fear, but in a way that reveals something powerful. Life reflects back the version of yourself that you continue to recognize emotionally, energetically, and subconsciously. Let me ask you this. How often do you anticipate failure before it happens? How many times have you stood in front of a mirror searching for flaws instead of truth? How often do you check your phone, your inbox, your finances, not with trust, but with anxiety? That is observation. And it's more than just a mental habit. It carries weight, not only spiritually and emotionally, but on a quantum level. Because whatever you witness as real begins to crystallize into the version of reality that forms around you. Here's where most people get stuck. They try to stay optimistic, they visualize the future, they engage in manifestation practices, but their lens of observation is still tinted with fear, scarcity, and outdated programming. So even when they reach for something new, their attention is rooted in the old self, and the universe reflects that back to them. You cannot enter a new reality while still perceiving through the eyes of your past self. But what changes when you begin observing from a new state? That's the core of what we are diving into. Because there exists an entirely new frequency of experience, one that has been hidden, not because it's out of reach, but because you haven't been attuned to perceive it. Once you align your perspective with this frequency, reality begins to bend and morph in profound ways. This is not just a theory. This is a journey you are about to embark on. In the next part, we will explore how your focus doesn't merely shape your thoughts, but also influences physical form. You will realize that purposeful observation is not just a change in mindset, it's a shift in your timeline. Stay with me. This isn't just inspiration. This is the blueprint of creation, and you are about to reconnect with a part of you that knows how to build it. If something within you is already awakening, even subtly, declare it now. I choose to observe differently. This is not just a statement. It is a directive to the universe, and the universe always responds. You've heard that focus matters, but no one explained what focus actually does. Because focus isn't simply about paying attention. It is energetic ignition. Once you understand how your attention interacts with a quantum field, your understanding of reality and thought will change forever. Focus is frequency. Let's decode that your focus is not just mental awareness. It is a vibrational tuner. Every time you focus on something, whether it's a desire, a memory, or a fear, you are broadcasting a signal. That signal carries a vibration. And the universe does not respond to what you merely want. It responds to what you are attuned to. Focus is the code that shapes reality, while the world around you acts as a projection screen. What manifests on that screen is determined by where you consistently direct your attention. This is why two people can live entirely different lives in the same external world. They are not experiencing the same reality. Their frequencies are not aligned. Their internal lenses do not match. Their observations are rooted in different energetic states. Have you ever questioned the illusion of neutrality? Here's the hidden pitfall. You might believe you're simply witnessing life unfold. But in truth, most people aren't merely observing, they're unconsciously reinforcing their own perceptions. They focus on what's missing and call it pragmatism. They dwell on worst-case scenarios and label it preparation. They cling to the past and call it memory. Yet, from a divine and quantum understanding, every act of focus is an instruction to the universe, a frequency, a magnetic pull. You are not merely observing, you are choosing. So take a moment to reflect. What am I consistently choosing without realizing it? What mental loops am I unconsciously cycling through? What timeline have I anchored myself to simply through the way I observe reality? For when your focus comes from fear, you trigger a timeline that mirrors that fear. When your focus comes from a place of lack, you attract experiences that reflect scarcity. But here is where the breakthrough lies. You have the power to shift that instantly. Right now, you could redirect your focus to a version of your life that feels empowered, harmonious, and abundant. You could focus on serenity. You could focus on joy. You could attune yourself to the energetic signature of already possessing what you have long desired. And in that moment, your inner world begins to transform. Not because your outer circumstances changed, but because your perception shifted. That internal pivot is the beginning of a new vibration, a new storyline, an entirely new reality. This is not just theory, it is grounded in science. Dr. Joe Dispenza analyzed thousands of brain scans of individuals who intentionally adjusted their focus. The result? When people deeply concentrated on a future vision infused with purpose, emotion, and clarity, their brains lit up as though that future was already their present. The chemistry of their bodies changed. Their nervous systems balanced. Their energy fields became stronger. Why does this happen? Because the subconscious cannot distinguish between a lived experience and a vividly observed one, especially when the observation carries strong emotional charge. The universe operates the same way. From passive observer to conscious creator. Allow this truth to settle. What you give your attention to, you nurture. What you nurture, you embody. What you embody, you broadcast. And what you broadcast determines the reality you live in. So the real question isn't, what do I desire? The real question is, what am I habitually focused on? Your focus is not merely a response to life. It is an architect of it. It is like a sacred lens that either amplifies your fears or projects the reality you are ready to claim. Most people let their focus operate on autopilot. They scan for what's wrong. They replay old traumas. They brace themselves for pain. But imagine if you treated your focus as a sacred tool. What if you refined it, aligned it, and uplifted it? You would stop looping through outdated realities and start creating new ones. You would stop experiencing life through old programming and begin transmitting from your truest frequency. We are about to uncover a truth that completely redefines manifestation. Everything you've been told about desire being the key is only part of the equation. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you perceive is already true. Get ready, because we are about to break down the real reason things haven't been showing up as you hoped and how you can change that in an instant. This may be uncomfortable, but it's the kind of truth that opens everything. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you continuously witness. Let that settle in. Right now, you might be doing everything right. Affirmations, visualizations, meditation, journaling. But if the feelings behind those practices are still rooted in fear, lack, or the sense that it's not here yet, then that is the energetic message the universe will continue to reflect back to you. It's not because you are unworthy. It's not because the timing is wrong. It's because your energetic signal is still aligned with an outdated version of reality. Here's the real disconnect. People desire abundance but view their finances with stress. They long for love but look at themselves with judgment. This is where the quantum field responds, not to your desires, but to the frequency you emit. They crave freedom but perceive their lives through the lens of limitation. That's the misalignment. That's the loop. That's the gap between the reality you desire and the frequency you are transmitting. You are attempting to construct a future while emotionally anchoring yourself to the past. The field doesn't interpret language, it interprets vibration. It does not listen to your words, it reads your energy. The energetic matrix around you, the energetic field, communicates only in frequency. When you desire something but approach it with doubt or uncertainty, your signal communicates lack, and the universe reflects that absence. But when you observe your vision with conviction, with gratitude, and with the feeling that it already exists, the field begins to reorganize itself. It's not the strength of your desire that moves reality. It's the authenticity of your energetic resonance. This is the power of aligned observation. Let's make this practical. Imagine you are visualizing financial freedom. The old loop is this: you imagine wealth, but then check your account and feel dread spiral into worry. That is not coherence, it's contradiction. And the frequency that wins is the one you feel most strongly. The new loop is when you hold the vision of abundance. And when you engage with your finances, you remain centered. You tell yourself, this is just a moment. I already sense things shifting. You align with prosperity, not because the numbers have changed, but because your frequency has. This kind of observation, that's where the true power lies. That's the alignment that moves timelines. But here's what most overlook. Observation isn't just where your eyes land. It's what your belief is doing when you look. It all comes down to this. It's not just what you see. It's what you believe when you are seeing it. If your belief is, I'm not there yet, or things never work in my favor, or it's not real until there's proof, then your perception is anchored in waiting. But waiting isn't passive. It's a frequency. It signals delay. It keeps you in a holding pattern, trying to manifest but never truly landing the outcome. Not because your intentions are flawed, but because your inner observer is not attuned to the version of you who already has what you're asking for. As it is said in the Quran, indeed, God does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. The shift begins from within. Neville Goddard captured this beautifully. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Why? Because when you perceive reality from the outcome, when you embody the end result, you align with that timeline. But if you view life from the gap, from the sense of lack, you keep your desire stuck in a state of potentiality. Here's your pivot point. The sooner you can observe your vision as already real, the sooner it manifests into form. Because life does not respond to pursuit. It responds to presence. Let's make this tangible. For the next 24 hours, practice this. Anytime you think of a goal or desire, shift your lens and observe it as though it's already yours. When fear or doubt creeps in, meet it like an old memory, not as truth. Whenever you glance at your life, ask yourself, how would the version of me who already lives this reality see this moment? Try this. You will notice a shift in your energy, and the external world will begin to reflect it. Now you are prepared to move to the next level. It's not just about shifting your perspective, it's about using your observation to initiate a full timeline change. In the coming moments, you will learn the mechanism behind collapsing old realities and stepping into the one you've always known as possible. Once you feel that internal shift, you will never look at life through the same lens again. Here's the deeper truth. You've been observing life unconsciously from a place of anxiety, limitation, and inherited identity. And your current reality is simply mirroring that back to you. But now you understand, observation isn't just perception, it's selection. You are not simply witnessing life unfold, you are choosing which version of reality you participate in. So, how do you become a conscious observer, the kind that bends timelines? You start with awareness. Pause. Scan your thoughts. Ask yourself, where does my mind drift when I'm not paying attention? What version of reality am I rehearsing on default? Do I expect miracles or just maintenance? Your habitual perspective is the signal that the universe keeps aligning with. Notice your automatic emotional responses. When you get a bill, what's your reaction? When you consider your future, what mental images pop up? When you sit in silence, what stories loop through your mind? Recognizing these patterns is the key because you cannot recalibrate a frequency you haven't identified. Now that you see it, you can begin to interrupt it, not by resistance, but by choosing again. Try this simple yet powerful shift. When a familiar fear arises, speak aloud. That's not who I am anymore. When you catch yourself imagining the worst-case scenario, pause and redirect your thoughts. Let's run a better scene. Notice your energy slipping back into an outdated version of yourself. With conscious awareness, you can choose a new path and shift your focus toward the reality you truly desire. Adjust your body. Change your breathing. Recenter your state. These actions might seem insignificant, but they are transformative. Every time you disrupt the old signal, you weaken the well-worn neural pathways and create space for something new. And that space is all the universe needs to reorganize itself. This is where the leap happens. Close your eyes and picture the version of you who is already living in abundance. The one who is profoundly loved, who walks with clarity and purpose. Ask yourself, how does this version of me move? How do they speak? What do they no longer worry about? What naturally captures their attention? Now here's the pivotal shift. Begin to see your life through their eyes, not from your current self, but from their perspective. This is not mere fantasy. This is permission. That version of you already exists in the quantum field. And the moment you begin to observe life from their frequency, you start collapsing their timeline right now, not in some distant future. Make this a daily ritual. Each morning, before the world's noise sets in, sit in stillness. Allow your current identity to dissolve. Release the name, the past, the stories that bind you. Visualize the future version of you who is already living your vision. Feel their presence. Then begin observing the world through their lens. Picture yourself checking your phone, moving through your space, having a conversation, all from this new energetic baseline. Hold that perspective for just 3 minutes. That shift in observation isn't just cognitive, it's energetic. It adjusts your frequency. It reprograms your field. It signals to the universe, this is who I choose to be. Remember this, you don't have to resist your current reality. You only need to sustain observation of a different one long enough for it to manifest. Your life isn't stuck. It's attuned to a signal you forgot you could alter. But now you remember. The next time fear resurfaces or doubt speaks softly, or an old narrative tugs at you, you'll smile and say, there's the old timeline again, but I'm no longer tuning into that. You've been living a script, a narrative that began long before you realized you held the pen. And most of that story was not authored by you. It was programmed by family, culture, trauma, and repetition, often without your conscious choice. You've been watching your life through that inherited lens, replaying scenes you never consciously selected, reacting to roles you didn't volunteer for, and reliving cycles that feel familiar but false. But now you are becoming lucid in the middle of the story, and you're reclaiming something profound. You are not merely playing a part. You are the one writing the script and shaping your identity. That is the lens through which you observe, and it is through this lens that reality is created. Let's take this to a deeper level. Your identity, the internal narrative about who you believe yourself to be, is the lens through which you perceive reality. And as we have already uncovered, whatever you observe starts to manifest. So if your identity whispers, I'm not ready, or I always mess things up, or I don't deserve better, or this is just how I am, that belief becomes the filter through which a reality is collapsed. Not because it reflects truth, but because it feels familiar. The universe doesn't validate truth. It mirrors your dominant observation. You haven't been creating, you've been repeating. Here's what many fail to notice. They wake up and unconsciously replay the past. They feel the same emotional patterns, narrate the same limiting stories, expect the same outcomes, and then wonder why their life remains unchanged. It's not because they lack the desire for change. It's because they continue to embody the version of themselves that shaped their current circumstances, and the quantum field doesn't judge, it mirrors. Same identity, same filter, same narrative, same outcome. Now, when you make the decision to shift, here's the reframe. You don't need to overhaul every piece of your life. You don't need to micromanage every outcome. You only need to transform the one who is observing. Because when your inner narrator evolves, the external reality adjusts accordingly. So let me ask you this. Who is the version of you who no longer carries that emotional scar? Who is the one who embraces their light without apology? Who is the self that expects ease rather than struggle? That version isn't a distant future. It is already present in the quantum field, waiting for you to focus in their direction. And the moment you start observing through their perspective, you initiate the process of becoming them. Let's anchor this into a practical shift, the script break technique. When you notice yourself reacting like the old version, pause, close your eyes, and ask, who's behind this reaction right now? What narrative is it tied to? Then follow up with, what would the upgraded version of me see or choose instead? That brief moment of awareness, that's you taking back the pen. That's how you exit the old storyline and begin crafting a new one. Because identity isn't rigid. It is fluid. and you are the author of your story. It's malleable, it's multi-dimensional, and it bends to the direction of your focused energy. And now for the truth that rewrites everything. You were never broken. You were simply observing yourself through a distorted perspective. But once you adjust the lens, everything begins to realign. Your thinking softens, your energy opens, your nervous system calms, and your direction becomes clearer. The script you've been playing out isn't set in stone. It is crafted in vibration, light, and choice. Every observation from your higher self inscribes a new line. Now that the pen is in your hands, it's time to author a new frequency. If you're still carrying the imprint of your past, echoes of who you used to be will continue to show up. So, how do you recalibrate your energy so completely that it begins to feel natural? You are about to uncover what unfolds when focus turns into alignment, when your vibration becomes a declaration, and when your energy grounds you like an anchor. You've already realized how potent your focus truly is, not just as a mental process, but as a generative force. Because whatever you observe, you awaken. And whatever you awaken, you begin to embody. This isn't just poetic language or spiritual fluff, it's the science of consciousness. Now you see clearly, focus isn't just about choosing circumstances, it's about choosing identity. You're not merely watching reality unfold. You are stepping into what you keep observing. Every single day, you are immersed in endless possible versions of reality. One where you're empowered, one where you feel stuck, one of abundance, one of survival mode. Your focus is the dial, the decoder, the access point. The more you lock into peace, the more you become peace. The more you focus on growth, the more your energy expands. And if you continue directing your awareness toward what's absent, you begin identifying as the version of yourself who always feels incomplete. This isn't cosmic punishment. It's divine law. Because how you observe directly shapes your inner state, and your state becomes the template for your external world. The mind doesn't lead, attention does. As Dr. Bruce Lipton teaches, it's not your genetic makeup that dictates your path, but your perception. When you observe through the lens of fear, your body enters a state of stress. When you observe from love, your entire biology shifts into balance. And here's the mind-blowing part. Your brain literally rewires itself based on what you consistently focus on. Neuroplasticity, quantum resonance, vibrational reflection, call it what you will, but the result is undeniable. You are continuously transforming into the version of yourself that your attention reinforces. So the real question isn't, what do I want? But rather, who am I willing to become through the way I observe? Now that you've reclaimed conscious control over your power to observe, it's time to ground that transformation into practice. Here's a transformative and practical method to align with your next timeline. The focus loop technique. 1. Morning activation. Before you check messages, headlines, or tasks, pause and ask, which version of reality will I choose to tune into today? 2. Midday reset. Set a gentle alert on your phone. When it goes off, take a breath, close your eyes, and say, I return to the self I am stepping into. 3. Nighttime integration. Before you drift off, revisit the times you observed with intention. Feel sincere gratitude for every shift and let that feeling soak into your system. Repeat this often, not as a chore, but as a devotion. Over time, the elevated version of you becomes your natural baseline. Not through struggle, but through sacred repetition. This is the turning point. You don't need to push harder. You don't need to manipulate the universe into responding. All you need is to observe life through the lens of the identity that matches your highest potential, consistently, confidently, and clearly. Because when your observation turns into conviction, the field listens. And when your focus stabilizes, your new reality begins to crystallize. Now you remember, you are not a passive recipient of your surroundings. You are not trapped in a narrative you didn't author. You are not meant to endlessly react to external chaos. You are the witness. You are the chooser. You are the architect. What you choose to observe sets your frequency, and that frequency reshapes your entire experience. So take a breath, tune in, and ask yourself right here, right now, what am I finally ready to call into existence? Who am I prepared to embody from this moment forward? This is not just the end of a message. It is the opening of a new dimension, the doorway to your next chapter.